Hey folks, Steve here with another Dark Summer video. We're going to be looking at turn one. I know it's been a little bit of a wait for this video. I apologize. I wanted to get to it, but as it happens, we've had a busy chunk of time here the last week or so. Though part of that was because I wanted to take the time to read through a book before playing this, and this is a book that Ted Racer actually quotes in the game materials as being a heavy influence for the game in terms of why the game is designed the way it is, or why the Americans get certain types of action shits and the British and Canadians get a different kind of action shit. Tempo in that book is Clash of Arms: How the Allies Won in Normandy, and so I had purchased this a while ago. I bought it pre-owned, so it's a little roughed up, but it was in okay shape to read. I had purchased this book a while back when I knew the game was going to come out, and he had used that book as an influence, but I hadn't gotten around to actually reading it, and I figured, well, if I'm going to play the game, I should read the book. And I found it a really good read, and interesting. It kind of gets long and dry after certain bits of information are seemingly repeated um, a bit, but it's an interesting book, not just for the Normandy campaign, but just in general for World War II reading. What's funny is that that particular book does not actually get to the Battle of Normandy until almost more than halfway through the book. It spends the first half talking about and really the book is segmented into parts to look at the U.S., the British, and the Canadian forces, and then the German forces, looking at them in the interwar period in terms of doctrine and firepower and experience and all of this stuff, an approach to operational combat, and covers the transition period from the time those forces enter World War II up until D-Day, and sort of contrasts how the different armed forces, operated, and what made them maybe better at some things and not so good in others, and all the different influences that those armed forces had culturally, and in terms of how their societies were structured, which informed how certain people acted or responded, and how they approached changes to their doctrine and adapting over time. So it's a really interesting read. It's not too terribly long, maybe a couple hundred pages. A lot of the book ends up having a lot of pages dedicated to cited sources, which is cool, but you end up flipping past those pages anyway. But I wanted to read the book just to help me have a better handle on the game, because usually a game has cited books in the bibliography or something, or recommended reading for it, but this book was specifically called out as being a major influence for the game. So to me, it just made a whole lot of sense. I understand the game a bit better by reading the book, so hopefully that proves true. And so then attached to that, I'm not an expert in Normandy by any stretch of the imagination. I know a lot of the basic stuff, so reading the book also kind of helped um, familiarize the overall campaign, and helped me familiarize myself with the whole campaign, since I knew some things with Khan and the beaches, which is in the sort of cultural memory of a lot of Americans. But obviously this game involves a whole lot more than the beaches, and in fact those beaches really only comprise of so many hexes up here. And the reality is the whole iconic, landing on the beaches kind of thing, that probably takes up 5 to 10 minutes of game time. And then you're inland and you're fighting all through here, and dealing with the fillet pocket potentially and all that good stuff. So we're going to get into that here in this video, or at least we're going to start. So hopefully this video is not too terribly long. I know the first videos in my series tend to get very long because we have to explain everything we're doing. I'll try to move pretty quickly because I had this little intro here about the book, but would recommend taking a look at that book if you've not read it. I did find it enjoyable. So a couple of things from the last video that I kind of got wrong, and Ted Racer actually reached out to let me know. I misread something in the rules, so that there are still 2 reaction markers that the Germans will get to use later in the turn after we get past the first 4 action chits that are scripted by game rule. So we'll have the amphibious first wave, amphibious invasion, the German reaction, the second wave, German reaction, and then we'll be pulling from the cup with these 2 reaction markers being available to the Germans at that point once the Allies start pulling their chits. So we have that kind of situated. I think I am good to go otherwise in terms of getting started. Because it is relatively scripted, we are going to have a pretty good idea of how all this stuff is going to shake out. So with that intro done, we'll go ahead and get into it. On the first turn, we do skip some of the more general sequence of play stuff, and we basically just go right into the amphibious invasion mechanics. So what I'll do here is I'll make a cut, and I'm going to probably reorient the camera a little bit so that we can have a closer view of those beaches way up here, far away from where the camera currently is. And just in a general comment on the way the game's probably going to go, we're going to see the British kind of push through here. There's a lot of nice open terrain, but they're going to get clogged up around Caen and the Orne River. And the Germans are going to try to halt them here. Obviously, the British are also closest to the map edge, which is sort of tied in with the victory conditions. Where the Americans kind of have a multi-objective series of actions here, where they need to be pushing out of the Utah Beach area and probably isolate Cherbourg and ultimately take it up here in the Cherbourg box, pushing back down, getting out to Brittany ideally, and then possibly coming back up and causing grief for the Germans there. So when you look at it that way, it's like, oh man, the Americans have a lot more that they need to do. And this dividing line partway through the map that divides the British and the Americans will be a heavy influence on how this goes. So the Americans really have to go up here, they have to go down here, then come back up later. What's funny is this line was very real, in a very real sense. Reading Clash of Arms, and I'm sure experts in Normandy would know there were cases where like the British could have done some stuff to help the Americans out, but that dividing line, they said no, we can't do that, and so they didn't. And some stuff like that happened. I think we're going to be good there, and the Germans obviously are going to be holding back the Allies as much as they can, and we'll see what they can do from a defensive perspective. The Americans are going to have to deal with a lot more bocage, and more of it earlier in the efforts, because it's like most of the map is actually the bocage terrain type, which helps the defenders a lot. It is tough terrain for a lot of that. So I think for a while the Americans are going to have to deal with that more than anybody, where the British are going to deal with the city, the ridges, some river crossings that could prove annoying to deal with, and then they will eventually hit some forest type stuff. There's a lot of open terrain out here, which they I think would like to get to at some point, not too far into the game. So I think that's it for the intro, guys. Let's move the camera. We'll get up there and we'll talk about the first amphibious wave, and we'll talk a little bit about some of the oddball counters that are involved in this game besides your usual combat counters. Okay, so let's talk through the beginning. I have the camera rotated over a little bit just to show the action round track. There's a little bit of a glare. I apologize for that, but there's an action round track, which we have to show the different action chits that have been played and what the latest one is. We have the game turn track. We have a victory point track. We have the current weather track. The current weather is showers, so and that is shown here. So very easy to follow that. And I have those 2 reaction chits I mentioned before. So the way that the first turn works is there is a specific set of actions that need to happen first in the game. We talked about it a couple of different times, but I have the chits here to just easily slide into place as we go through the motion. So we have the first wave of amphibious invasion, German reaction. That is a little bit different than the rest of the game's reaction. There's some restrictions on movement that the Germans have to deal with. There's the second wave and then the second reaction. So it's all pretty straightforward stuff. So we have the first wave. And I will just read from the rule book here so we understand the concept. We're going to put that shit on the action round. All Allied, meaning US, British, and Canadian first wave units attack their assigned beach hex as indicated on the map by means of a chevron on the intervening hex side. The US 2nd Ranger Battalion participates in both this round and the second wave round, even though Pointe du Hoc is not a beach. No other combats are allowed. No combat support markers are available. Each combat must be fully resolved before proceeding to the next one. Units that eliminate the strong point opposing their landing advance after combat into the beach. Place an open beach marker in the hex. Note that Pointe du Hoc hex is not a beach. If the U.S. Ranger Battalion is victorious, no open beach marker is going to be placed in that hex. The Allied player may, if he wishes, immediately advance some or all of these units one additional hex, ignoring enemy Zocs before proceeding to the next combat. Units that do not eliminate the strong point remain in their beach approach hex. Wow, all of this is pretty simple stuff, actually. If we rotate to our view of the pertinent beaches here, that means we're going to be rolling combats for here, which is, I believe, Utah Beach. Then we have Omaha over here, 2 different hexes for Omaha Beach. We do have the Pointe du Hoc place here that has the Ranger Battalion attacking it, so from here to here. And then obviously the British beaches as well over here. And so it's kind of hard to see because I have it congested, but this hex, this hex, this hex, this hex, and this hex. So 5 hexes for the British. Functionally 4 for the U.S. And of course, what helps the U.S. a little bit is that their paratroop drops are a little more higher in number and further afield. So you can see there are these strong point hexes in various, strong point markers, strong point units, and these different hexes. There are some U.S. paratroopers that are kind of creating a little bit of a a position for the Allies to kind of exploit out of if they can get there. Now, quickly, what I'll point out is that on the map you do have the stronghold markers, stronghold points that have a question mark for combat value. So randomly, during setup, you will fill each of the hexes that have this hexagon shape for the strong point. You will place one of these combat units face down, and neither player knows what the combat strength is when you do that setup. So you mix them up, randomize them, place them, and the German player doesn't know, the US player does not know. We will find out as they're attacked what that strength is. So this provides a little bit of replayability in the game where, I mean, obviously we would expect the Allies are going to get onto the beaches, but if they have an easy time or a harder time of it, may be different in each individual beach from game to game. So there, that can potentially change the beginnings of each game that you play, and then also attached to that, if you end up knocking out a lot of tough strong points, you'll end up knowing that the rest of the strong points may be lower in strength. So much like the weather chits in this game, you can't be sure which chits are here, but you will start to have a better idea of what's left to do over time. Similarly, you have these Ost battalions that are battalion-sized units that do not project a Zoc, as in of control. They also have a question mark. They also have specific places on the map that you place them. There's this tiny little rectangle that says Ost, where those units go. They are similarly set up at random. Of the available markers or units, they are placed randomly, so you don't know how strong that unit is, though they do have designated locations. The one difference between a strong point and the battalion is that these units can move. So they do have a movement factor of 4. the strong points can't go anywhere. So there's really not much that help support um, the strong points. The one, if they're surrounded or they're out of supply or whatever, they're going to get beat up pretty badly. These OS battalions at least can move and react to what's going on the map a little bit. So that's one advantage. There's a few other oddball units out here on the map. You can see there's this flak unit that has some special stuff to it. It's basically a weak unit unless it is defending against mechanized, motorized units, that kind of thing. And of course, there are still standard German units, right? We've got some infantry, we've got some armor up here in Cherbourg. You can see they're standard units with attack, defense, movement factors, and so on. We just have this light screening force, or the basic beach defenses, where the Germans ultimately have a sort of defense in echelon where these weak strong points and units are meant to just slow down the Allies and contain a lodgment while they get reinforcements that will eventually come onto the board through here, coming onto the board to actually disrupt the Allies and either push them back into the sea or just wear them down. So, yeah, so what we're going to do is we're going to look at each of these and we're going to roll the combats and then determine if we're going to advance after combat anywhere. Keep in mind, we could not, if we eliminated this unit, advance into combat here. This is still technically considered a unit. So if anything, if we take this hex, we could advance here. We could go into the hex, and then advancing one more hex means going either here or here, basically. Okay, sorry for that prolonged intro yet again. I just want to kind of talk through the mechanics of all of this. So it's going to be a really basic die roll across the board because we don't have any sort of support markers or anything else. It really should be a pretty basic, straightforward set of die rolls for this. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start processing the first action sheet. We've talked a little bit about this already, but it's really going to be a straightforward thing. We'll reveal the first marker, and we'll get to die rolling. It should be pretty good. So we'll flip this guy, and we find that the Utah Beach strong point is a 2. Our attacking units here are 6 and 6, so that's a 12. 12 to 2 is 6 to 1. Rolling on the CRT, combat results table, with no other modifiers, we get a 4, which is defender eliminated. I think any result would have actually succeeded here. So this guy is gone. These guys can advance. What I'm going to do is I'm going to set a open beach marker here first, and then have these guys advance after combat. They can then advance yet another hex. And I had read the example of play. They had these units all advance into here with this unit, which is stacking allowed because those 2 units were part of a division, and then the airborne units can ignore the division restriction for stacking purposes. These guys can advance here. Now, it might seem like I'm leaving the beach open, but the next wave of guys will come in. And in the interim, when the Germans react, they are going to have some restrictions on movement. So these guys can't move, but even this guy, if they wanted to, couldn't quite get down here, and this guy down here couldn't quite get over here. So we're kind of safe to put a bunch of firepower here to maybe knock that guy loose in the combats to come. So there we go. First one, successful, pretty straightforward, nothing too crazy. Next, we have the Point du Hoc spot, which is not a beach, but it is a good location for us to kind of help extend the open front. That strong point is 2 strength, which is not as good. Our Rangers are a 3 to 2. That basically just boils down to a 1 to 1. There's no other modifiers here. And I rolled a 6, so that is a DR star, which is actually enough to remove this strong point. The strong point could ignore a DR result on this first phase, but not a DR star, in which case it is eliminated. So that guy's gone. This guy gets to advance, and because this is not going to be supply location. We'll go ahead and move him over here, I guess, because I would really like to make sure he can get supply, assuming these beaches get opened up. So that will work for them. And then we have these Omaha beach markers. Now this complicates things a little bit. So each of these markers adds 3 combat factors and also changes how the strong points can react to combat loss results. So if I reveal these guys, that's a 1. That's also a 1. Neither player, and really I don't know, because I am either player. Nobody knows what these strength points are until they're revealed. So it's sort of, you know, you can imagine if these were both 2s, having a combat factor of 5 is a lot tougher for the Americans than a combat factor of 4, 1 plus 3, but there you go. So what do these Omaha Beach markers actually do? It's just showing that they were reinforced by elements of the 352nd Infantry Division. They add combat strength and when defending during the first and second wave. These 2 strength points can treat DR star as exchange and are considered to have 2 steps for the purposes of determining allied losses. Result of BL1 still eliminates a strong point. Interesting. So this it could be a problem as we look at the attacking forces for the first hex. That is 12. We can't use this guy because he's already attacked this action shit. So 12 to 4, that is 3 to 1. And I rolled a 3. So that is a DR star. Would be a DR star, but again, it's going to be treated as an exchange. There's going to be 2 steps. So this guy is eliminated. This marker is irrelevant, but we have to take 2 step losses. So the best thing to do is to distribute your losses. I believe in this game as it happens. So we do have a open beach. Thank goodness. They advance, and they can advance another hex. So I think we'll go ahead and do that. Yes, I think that is the best that we can operate there. Second attack is going to go hopefully a little bit better because we have 16 combat factors to 4. That's 4 to 4. And we'll roll the die. They got a DR or a DR result, which in this case is a nothing. So these guys actually do not get ashore here. So much for that. And that's it for the Americans. Now we have to be careful I don't move around counters as I move the camera. We have these other ones. So we would have 12 to 1. I believe that's just going to be an automatic defeat. So these guys can come ashore. Oh, of course we need our open beach. And they come ashore, and then they can advance. I think it's better for this because this guy could maybe cause a problem over here, and I don't want to have to deal with that. This guy is a 2, so he's a bit stronger. And we have, still 12 to 2. That's 6 to 1. He's going to be eliminated. So these guys come on. I'll just advance them another hex like that. And another open beach. This guy is a 2, but that is also a town, so I'm going to have to double check the combat strength for that. So that is a 12 to 2, but the town gives 1 shift to the left. So that would be 12 to 2, 6 to 1 would be 5 to 1. 5 to 1 is a roll of 4. That's defender eliminated, so he is taken out. So the Canadians have come on. And we'll put our beach marker. And we've got, looks like 11 to 2. So basically 5 to 1 there. I did get a DR star result, which will be enough to eliminate that unit. So again, these guys come on and we'll advance like so. Put another open beach marker. And then finally, oh, this is a strong one. A strength point of 3 being attacked by 11. So that's 3 to 1. No other modifiers that I can tell. And we rolled a 4, which is a DR star, which will eliminate this guy. And let's see. I think maybe we still... Ooh, interesting. Yeah, I think we still do. I think we still advance a little bit. And there's a city here. It might be good to knock out, but we'll deal with that in time. So there we go. That is the first action shit accomplished. Taking a step back for a second and looking at the larger picture. So the Americans are on the continent over here in Utah Beach, Omaha. They have progressed, but they ran into some issues here. Will probably be quickly rectified. But then the British have managed to get through off to a good start there for the first wave. So they're doing pretty good. Trying to think if did I do anything wrong? I think I did everything correctly. We will just have to see what happens here on the next action for the Allies. But it is the German reaction shit next. So I'll just put that shit on the track. Now, the differences for this particular action is that, let's see, what is it? All normal reaction round rules apply, except that the movement allowance of active units is halved, and units may not use the road movement rate. Definitely a limitation. Now, with the reaction shit, what a German player can do is that they're either going to activate one stack, so one hex of units, whatever they are, or has to pick a formation, which basically means a division, if you're going to be economical about it. And so the example of play has the 352nd go, which is like there's a unit way down here. I think there's one here and one here. So you can kind of have this like very distributed situation. Because the German defense is set up the way it is, I think as a German player, you really need to look at this and go, okay, well, where do I need to block? And then do I actually have enough units to do the block? And what is their, what is their position, right? If I pick the 352nd, like the example of play, I get to move, one guy, one hex, great. Everybody can move a little tiny bit out of this formation, but it's only a couple guys and they're very far apart. So all you would be really trying to do is figure out where to plug the line. Alternatively, you might be looking at maybe somebody up here, say, oh, I'm going to pick the 709th, and there's a lot of guys, over here that could potentially do stuff. The only challenge is, you're not going to be able to attack unless they're Tigers or Panzer groups. So it's not like you can, the reaction's just to kind of plug the line, not to do a whole lot of damage yet to the Americans. You really need a true counterattack, and we don't quite have that as the Germans. So I'm going to take myself off camera and think about how I want to do this reaction. And when we come back, we'll show that, and then we'll get started on the second wave. So I think for the German reaction, we're just going to take a point from the example of play and do what they did. I did the 352nd infantry formation, which allowed us to move one unit, basically up a hex down here. Allowed us to pull this guy up to here. This is important. Just keep in mind half movement, right? So a lot of German units have 6 movement points. That means we're down to 3. And if we look at the movement cost of any particular hex, what you need to keep in mind is that the Germans have a different movement point cost, than the Allies do. So, for instance, the Germans spend 2 movement points to move in bocage, 2 for clear, but the Allies only spend 1 for clear and 3 for bocage. So, bocage. So so you got to keep that in mind. The Germans move just plain differently than the Allies do in terms of the cost. So pulled this guy up, pulled a guy here back, and then pulled, sorry, that's not quite on camera, the guy that was here and kind of in a kill box, and pulled him back. Just looking at the map, I could not decide for myself, and I feel it's a little bit of a shame to say, I couldn't quite figure out, like, well, what can I even do that would be valuable right now with half movement, right? And if I can only activate one formation, that just doesn't give me a lot of options. But I think the example of play at least provides one decent option to say, hey, you got to start projecting some Zocs a little bit better, or else the Allies are going to penetrate your lines. And so that made sense. And so I'm acting in concert with that, and it hopefully saves some units. So suffice to say, the Allies are on the continent. They are on the beaches. They're going to be pushing far beyond the beaches before long. So now it is time to get things situated as best we can. That's the best we can hope for at this point. So that completes that activity. And so now we are back to the what is effectively the second amphibious round. So let's see, there's a whole bunch of content here to read through, but basically we're going to just look at it this way. If the assigned beachhead hex is open, second wave units are placed there at the start of the round. Ignoring stacking restrictions, up to 4 units may attack any adjacent units. So let's see, second wave. The second wave guy here, he gets to be placed in the beach. These are second wave guys. They get to go to the beach. This is a second wave guy. They have to go into this waiting hex because the beach is not open. If we look over here, technically, you could be doing this all in order. I'm doing all the basic placement and movement first just because that's easier to me. That is third wave. Okay, second wave is going here. This is third wave, so technically they can't do anything, I don't believe. Okay. And then these guys are second wave, so they can all go into the open beach hex. So that you can see, that's a really easy thing to kind of get set up there. They all sort of shuffle down. The third wave is still to come, but and then there's some units over here that are third wave glider units, but at least for the moment, getting more units onto the map, that's a pretty easy thing to do. But we do have the ability to do combat. Friendly first and second wave units that have landed at an open beach may attack adjacent German units, including joining attacks against beach hexes that were not captured during the first round. Naval support markers are available starting this round. So both the Americans and the British have these naval support markers that will lend 6 combat strength to attack or defense. I will need to double check how often they can be used. I don't want to use them too early. And let's see, as in the first round, units that capture a defending hex may immediately advance a second hex. The second hex must be one the unit could legally move into and cannot ignore enemy Zocs when advancing that second hex. Blah, 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 blah. And at the end of the second wave round, place a closed beach marker beneath the German strong point in each beach hex that contains. Okay, so we have to make sure basically that the Allies take that hex, but they're kind of well positioned to do that. Yeah, plenty of strength there for sure. Okay, naval support can be used in every Allied combat or combined action round, and can support one attack. And the naval support markers can also be used in German combat or reaction rounds, and may be used once to support defending units or open beach markers. So yeah, boy, the Allies get to use these once every combat round, but that's every combat round. So this is very powerful for them to use, and can make it so that all these guys don't necessarily all have to attack here. We could opt not to and just focus on doing other stuff. But just for the breakthrough value of advancing a second hex, we may want to have everybody here attack. Now, the thing to keep in mind about this action is that units that have already landed can also attack in advance. So this includes these guys way out here who advanced with the airborne units. Because the airborne units are not first wave units or second wave units, I do not believe the airborne units can actually help attack. So if these guys attack here, they will be doing it by themselves. And the example of play has these guys attack here, this guy attack here. I think that's a decent option. I'm not 100% sure that I'll do it that way, but that's certainly one option. What I may do is have these guys attack here, this guy attack here with the naval support, and then these guys will just totally annihilate this dude. And then on the British side, really because of us clearing over here, I find it's going to be most important to focus on attacking these strong points to kind of clear them out of the way so that the British can move more easily where they need to go. The one thing that we need to watch out for is that the naval support is only available within the naval support naval gun line, which is kind of hard to see a little bit, but it is basically it starts over here, sticks to the coast, and then it runs like this and stops short of Caen off map. So the naval markers are powerful, but they're only going to help in this area very, very close to the coast. And in fact, because of this tougher terrain over here, the Americans are going to lose their naval support pretty quickly because of that. But I think that's what we're going to want to do, is leverage that so that we have pretty good attacks across all these remaining strong points, so we clear them out of the way, and then we are able to better leverage the rest of our action chits to advance. Maybe the British can get into the city over here actually on schedule as to the way they originally planned, instead of getting stuck there for 6 weeks or more, or whatever it was. So I might need a minute off camera to kind of calculate all the combats and how I want to do them, but when I come back, we'll roll through those pretty quickly. Okay, so let's do these combats and see what happens. I think we'll start with these guys attacking here. So we will find out this Ost marker is a lonely, lonely one, which having 12 attacking one is for sure quite good. And I'm not sure, well, we do have to roll to see what the result is, but that is a defender eliminated. So this guy's going to go away. And I wonder, do I follow the same action as the what do you call it, the example of play? Maybe I will. We'll have these guys advance, and as part of the special amphibious action, these guys can still advance an extra hex. So I could have this guy advance like so here, and this guy advance like so, like that. So making some gains and basically creating a way for us to have a solid lodgement on this peninsula. And then we're going to have this guy all by his lonesome attack here, but we're going to throw in our third, or I'm sorry, our second wave naval support marker. So it's effectively 12 attacking one. Now, the one difference here is that this one is in what is considered marsh terrain. So it's 12 to 1, which goes to 6 to 1. And then you shift one left for the marsh, and it's 5 to 1. So even though we are like way super high in the ratio, right? 12 to 1, that still reduces to 6 to 1 because you can't be any higher. And then one shift to the left brings you to 5 to 1. So rolling die for that. Roll the 4, which is defender eliminated. So this guy is eliminated. This guy can advance. And these guys do not project Zocs. And so I could do what the example of play does and have this guy go here, which I don't know that that's... I don't know if that's really valuable to do or not. Like, I think I might leave this guy here for now and not advance a second hex. I just don't... I don't know what good that really does for us. I just don't want to provide a mechanism for this guy to try to sneak through here and cause problems. So I think this will work just fine. Oh, shoot. Okay, so what's funny, and I'm only realizing this after the fact, I could not have used the naval asset in this attack because it is beyond the naval gun line. So technically, I could not have actually used this at all for that given attack. It doesn't really matter because the odds would have still been 6 to 1 down to 5 to 1. And I probably won't need this marker for this combat. So it's kind of like I don't actually need the American naval support this action round. So I guess it doesn't really matter, but the effect over here is ultimately the same. So we're good in that regard. And then we would have the combat here, and we have still the four combat strength. We would be attacking with let's see, 24 to 4. That's 6 to 1 by itself, and there's no other bonus or anything. And so the only reason I would attack with everybody there is to get that extra advance after combat hex. So we're going to do that. And we roll a DR star, which is a I rolled a 1. So this is actually not great. I actually need to reference the rules because I believe that the Omaha Beach hex is going to cause us a problem. So this becomes an exchange result, and we have to take 2 step losses. Okay, well, that's annoying, but we'll deal with that. So I think what we'll do is take a step loss there, and we'll take a step loss here, and then this is all eliminated, and they will all get to advance after combat, and move an extra hex. So let me make sure that I can still do this the way I think I can do this. Okay, so we are allowed to overstack. There is a rules reference for this. We can overstack. So in effect, I can go, and I have to be careful of the division restriction. But these guys could go here. They're all part of the first division, so these guys could all stack with each other. These guys could advance and go here. Whoops, leave that guy behind. And this is a independent unit and a divisional unit, so that is okay stacking, I believe. And then here are 29th. So that is all legal and good to go. And of course, we need to make sure we have our beach open marker there as well, since we took that location. So that's it for the American side. So looking pretty good, but these guys are a little banged up, much more banged up than I thought they were going to have to be. But gosh, even rolling a 1, just that Omaha beach defense really hurt the Americans and kind of slowed them down a little bit. Over here on the British-Canadian side of things, we do have some combats that we're going to want to take care of, and I was trying to think through like how I wanted to operate this. That's clear hex, that's clear hex. So I think what I'm going to have happen is I'm going to have this unit attack here, and then I'm going to have this unit attack here with naval bombardment, maybe. Because what I'm aiming to do is to destroy all 5 of these strong points. Yeah, I need to think through this for a second. Okay, yeah, this is what we're going to try to do. We're going to try to attack here with this guy first. And we'll flip, and it is a 1. Doesn't matter what we roll, he will be removed with no step losses to the Canadians. So they got that and can advance a hex, so we'll do that. This guy's attacking here with naval support, so that is a 2. So 11 to 2 is 5 to 1 odds. And I rolled a 1, which is a DR, which I believe is no result for these particular guys. They don't have the Omaha special defense thing, but see, that's used. So don't take that. That's an annoyance. I'm going to have these 2 guys in this hex attack here. That's a 2, so we have another 5 to 1. It's much better. That is an eliminated result, so it goes away. And they can, let's see, they can advance, and advance again. So I think we actually can afford to have both these units advance, and I believe stacking is okay, because this is a division and a independent brigade, is my understanding. And then I was going to have a split attack here. So we were going to have this attack here, and then these two attack the city over here. The city terrain is going to be much tougher. So here, that is a 3, so that's actually not good. 6 to 3 is only 2 to 1 odds, and our armor probably is going to eat a hard one here. Oh yeah, we got an AL1, so that was careless on my part, probably. So that's no good. And then these guys would have 12 to 3. That's 4 to 1 odds. And the city is 2 steps, or 2 column shifts. So that's only 2 to 1. We rolled well. Rolled a 5, so that is a DR star, which, let me see here. Okay, so DR star would remove this guy. Even with the city, there's some special terrain effects for cities, for German defenders, but you need more than 1 step. So these guys are able to come in, and we'll have this guy move an extra hex like so. And this guy stays where he's at here. And I think that is it. So we did not get as much accomplished as we probably would have liked ultimately. So at least for the British side, that we took trying to eliminate these guys was too much of a pain in the butt, and I think we do want to remove them because these guys can actually attack. It's just that they can't advance after combat, but they can always be trying to attack and mess with the bridgeheads, and so they kind of need to be cleared out. My whole objective really was to kind of clear this whole area of the strong points so we can just focus on exploiting out and further inland. I think we did okay for the most part on these first series of actions. Next is the final German reaction. Not the final German reaction, but the second one for the initial turn stuff. The German units will have their full movement allowance and can use the road rate. So obviously the Germans need to stop the fall of Khan here. So they for sure need to make a movement there. So again, the example of play tends to be very useful guiding hand here for movement. So the 21st Panzer Division, which I'm going to turn the map a little bit so you guys can see better. So the 21st is down here, here, and here. Let me see if there's any others on the board that I'm missing. No, it's these 3 units, I believe. If I just, even just looking at the map there, where these units ended up before, I think we could certainly see how this gets set up. So it's like this unit comes over here, according to the example of play. This guy comes into here, and then this guy comes up to here in the example of play. And I don't see any reason why not to do that in this case either. Makes sense. We start to get a more coherent line of units and or Zocs through here, and we get something into the city so that the British simply can't move in there. So I think that's almost a must play for the second German chit. I mean, unless the British have really fouled up their attacks, I think that's the best action to take. So now we can begin to draw chits. The actual randomized actions can start to play out here. And at this point, anyone's chit could be drawn. We've got a nice a nice cup of chits to draw from, and we still have 2 German reaction chits to play after U.S. actions or Allied actions. So I'm going to pull from the cup. We're going to see what we get, and from, you know, for as much as this was scripted, we're now at the point where it is like, okay, now things can become more interesting. We can just kind of play the game with the rules as is. A lot of the special stuff is already dropped off, and we can focus on the game at hand. First chit drawn is a American mover combat, which is funny because that's exactly how the example of play goes. So I think, by golly, we're just going to do an American move and get the rest of our third wave onto the board and make headway here. So let me take care of that. Okay, here we are after the American move, and there's a bit of an oddity. In the example of play, the units, the infantry of the 90th Division go from the beach hex here to this hex here to be able to attack this guy later. At least I'm pretty sure I'm evaluating that correctly in terms of where the units end up. But I think the extended example of play is an error because there is no way for the units to get there. So to get to this hex from the beach, you would go effectively 1, 2, 3 movement points to this marsh, and then the minor road allows you to spend 1 movement point to traverse it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You would only get this far, not here, only here. If you went a different route, you could go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5.5, because the major road is a half, so 5.5, 6.5, 7.5, but then you could go no further. So I don't know if I'm missing something in the movement rules that would allow them to get over here. So instead, I brought them over here to attack this guy to kind of help open up the way to Cherbourg, where the example of play has them going over here to kind of create a situation where they could isolate the whole peninsula, but I can't get over there. So again, I don't know if I'm missing something, but I'm going to send them up this way instead. And so, yeah, we are securing our little opening here, and we'll begin to push our way through in the slightly more east, sort of sending stuff out just to kind of help pin down the Germans. Look to attack this flak, have a second division here to kind of bust open a hole to traverse, and then these guys setting up to attack. You can get across 1 hex beyond the border, and it makes sense to try to do that to help the British out a little bit, but that's all. We still probably want to at some point clear this guy here, though it's not super important. We just want to make sure the roads are nice and clear because we may need to traverse those at some point for either supply purposes or whatever. But there's no combat here. That was just a move chit, so that's all that we could get, which then calls into question, do we have the Germans react? And I think we will sort of follow the sequence of play of the extended example, and we will have the Germans react. And so it looks like the example of play has the Germans activating the 352nd. So we'll see what can be done for this situation. Okay, yeah, with the German reaction, we do the 352nd. I move the unit up from St. Lo up to here, pull this guy back, and pull this guy around to kind of help protect that road line, and that's, I think, as good as we can get. So we'll go back to the cup, and we'll see what we get. And we get British combat. So this is the first combat chit of the British. I think they may be happy with this. I mean, I think they maybe would have preferred a movement, but something to keep in mind is this is a combat chit. It is not a ore chit like the US or the Germans may have. It is simply a combat. So a little less capability overall. We do have some attacks that we could pull off that may be useful for us to achieve. But yeah, we need to think through. That. Well, I could certainly attack 8 to 8. That would be kind of rough. I'm not sure we want to do that, though we could use our naval support, which is back. Yeah, all those look like pretty tough combats, actually. Maybe not this one, but yeah. Okay. I need to think through these combats, and then we'll come back and take care of the British combat.
Okay, and so looking at the Commonwealth combat, I think what we're going to do is we're going to have this guy attack here. That would be 3 to 1, but if I add in the naval support, which is still legal for this space here between the naval gun line, that'll work. There's really not that many combats where we could use the naval, and what I want to do is try to eliminate this unit, so we've opened up a hole that we could exploit to get into con. So that'll be the first combat. We'll roll the die for it, and we'll have used our naval gun for this action round. And I rolled a 6, but all I needed was at least a 3. So this guy is eliminated. So first real basic German unit eliminated. And I guess because what matters in this game is as you eliminate units, you really start to care about the divisional integrity, because for certain victory point requirements, you need the whole division to exist. So if a division is missing a unit, you actually don't get the victory point for it. So this is a good one. I'm going to set it off camera. I'm going to try to organize the divisions as I eliminate units so that I just kind of know who's beat up and who is not. So these guys we get to advance. I think advancing here is good, and that gives us a pretty clear path if we manage to pull the British move next. Obviously, the Germans still have a reaction chit that they'll probably use, but we'll see how that goes. And then we still have some of these other spots here where it's like I would like to try to knock something loose, but I just don't quite have everything that I want. This could be a 2 to 1 attack, which that's okay, I guess. But we could still get a step loss, and I really don't want to do that. I would have really liked to have gotten the British movement chit so we could pull some of these guys in. The only other option would be to try to do a 1-on-1 attack here, and I don't really see the point. Or try to go from here to here across the major river. Major river, is going to be a shift to the left. We're also attacking into marsh, so I don't think that's really the ideal thing. So honestly, I that's as much combat as I think we can really afford to do right now. What we really needed was a movement. But because I chose 2 combat chits for the British and 1 movement, that might have, I was worried I made a bad choice there. That might actually turn out to be the better option in the long run. Because this gateway is open, let's see, if I look at the cup, I mean, the German action is still, we have a pretty good chance of pulling a German chit before the British chit. So I don't think I'm going to use the reaction, actually. I know it's like, yeah, there's this big gaping hole, but what is more likely going to happen is the Germans will get their chit, they'll get a move, and I'll be able to restructure the line anyway and bring guys on the board and kind of fix the situation. So I can wait to use the reaction chit until something else happens, I think. I'm going to go to the cup, and I'll probably be proven wrong as I pull the Commonwealth move chit, but we'll see. And nope, I was right. So I have a German combat or move chit. I think move is certainly the preferred action here. Now with this movement chit, I now actually get to move everybody. So um, at least in this case, we have just a lot more capability. And this is Germans for the whole map. So, just picking up the camera for a second. This means everybody. Um, and they would be able to use road movement because it is showers weather, so there's partly cloudy with some showers, which means some of these German units that are kind of still way far behind can hop on a road and move pretty quickly to get up to the line or to get somewhere where they'll be useful. So this is actually going to be a tough decision to decide like where am I going to go with all the units and everything else. And this also means we're going to potentially get some reinforcements for the Germans. I have to double check that. But what I'll just do is I will do all of the movement off camera, but certainly we are talking about the possibility of pulling stuff out of the Cherbourg box, pulling this guy up, rearranging what we have on this line here as best we can. You can see we've got some units way out over at the edge that we could pull over. And then again, if we do have reinforcements, we do have a decent number right here that we could use for that. So let me do all the movement, and when we come back, I'll show the end result. Okay, so here we are after the German movement. The reinforcements, I rolled poorly, but I got the... So this is the first case that we actually have the die roll for reinforcements. On the German move, we rolled a die. I got 1, which meant, if I had gotten higher, I could bring in that number of formations. But rolling a 1 is not good, but you can always bring in at least half of the available formations, is the rule, basically. So I could bring in 3 divisions, so I brought in, much like the example of play, the paratroopers here and some armor units down over here, and they are working their way up the major road line to join up. Those SS units that were off to the east have come up to support the defense over the Orne River. I did shuffle things around a little bit where we have something looking like a line. The marsh slowed some of these guys down, even with the roads, just couldn't get everywhere that they wanted. And I did pull some guys out of the Cherbourg box to kind of help defend around here. But it's all very, a very tenuous setup there, and I maybe could have pulled back more in a couple places, but we're just kind of getting it situated. I'd rather strengthen a hex in some places than just simply pull back. That might be an error. We'll see. At least make it more costly for the Allies at the outset to start. Ultimately, the Germans don't want to be battling in a war of attrition. That's not going to be good, but they need to do something to get themselves set up. So that's the best I could do for the moment. So we can go ahead and look at pulling the next chit from the cup, and we'll see what we get. And we get a British move marker. So sort of worked out in the Axis favor. Was worried they were going to walk into Caen, but that did not occur. And again, we don't get to pick the side of that. It is simply a movement, but this is actually the reinforcement chit that we can use for the British to get them moving, and we'll do that. So you can see, like, this guy will end up down here. These guys will end up over here, here to here. Relatively simple stuff. This guy will get to plop onto a paratrooper over here. So we do have something, some presence over the Orne River. These guys will help, and then the actual movement will enable us to begin to be engaged with the Germans. This movement will set us up for a British combat, but the Germans still have a reaction move, so it's going to be, up to them after this. Do they pull back? What do they do to hold on to what they've got? They may decide to do a reaction with the Lehr Panzer Division, and they're going to scoot up and prove to be a problem for the British. So we'll see what that looks like. I'll just do the movement off camera, but that's kind of what I'm thinking is to get, obviously we need to get everyone on the continent and getting ready to do some combats.
Okay, here we are after the Commonwealth move, and you can see I left some guys behind. This is intentional. My goal, I want to clear these strong points just because they are kind of a disruption for the roads, and I want to make sure we don't have anything in our backfield to deal with. Now, these would be eliminated via attrition, but what I expect I would want to do is make sure that I hold these guys down and that the Germans don't have any sort of ability to use these guys for attacks later. So it's, I don't know, it's sort of like it's useless to have these guys back here to eliminate them almost, but I would rather do it and have these high movement rate units be able to join up later. So just try to clear these guys in the next combat. So I don't know, kind of it's sort of a weird thought on how to address these, but I figure we'll get some mechanized replacements later, so it's not as bad as it might seem if we take any step losses with these guys. Otherwise, had moved our glider to here to help reinforce our crossing over the Orne River, moved up across the line here, and I'm pretty positioned, or I'm pretty well positioned that if we get a uh, Commonwealth combat shit to come up, we should be able to push all along these lines and sort of knock stuff loose so that we can start to come down through here and try to get into the city. And it is, so with that movement complete, it's finally a question of, well, do the Germans use their last reaction shit to try to create beneficial circumstances for themselves? Because what we're really looking at is this particular hex would be under attack. It would be under attack by 17, 21, 25, 29 to 8, 3 to 1 odds, attacking a city. So it's still potentially a retreat result. So this would be hard. This would actually be really difficult for the Allies to push the Germans out of here, given these special rules where the Germans can turn a result into a sort of different result. So I think what we might want to do is just make it so that the Allies cannot be as disruptive as they could be in trying to wear down the Khan defense that's in the city right now. So if I went ahead and just said, okay, yeah, we're going to play the reaction shit now, what we would do is we would activate the 12th SS here and basically have these guys move into the city hex here. This is a very strong 30 combat factors on the attack. If I could keep things steady. So we could attack here, and that wouldn't actually be, let's see, that would still be 30 to 18, not quite 2 to 1 odds. Alternatively, we could have attacked across the river and tried to push these guys back over here. We wouldn't be able to advance after combat over the river because these are all mechanized units, so we can't do that because of the major river line. And at best, we might be able to just force these guys to retreat. So I think pulling these guys into this position will work out just fine. I don't know that we try. I don't know that we try that, right? It'd be a 1-to-1. The most we could do is force a retreat. I don't know. Yeah, let's go. I mean, let's go ahead and try it. It's outside the naval defense here, but if we can just at least get a retreat that would actually work out okay. So we'll roll the die. We get a 3, which is a BL1. It was actually not what we wanted. It was actually kind of bad for the Germans to do that. So we take a step loss. They take a step loss. But at least that reduces their ability to attack. And yeah, that's it. That was probably a stupid attack. I probably shouldn't have done it at all. Just moving into the city itself actually helps a lot. But so much for that, I guess. All right, so we're all out of German reaction shit. So from now on, it's just whatever we get out of the cup is what we get out of the cup. I'm going to go to that and pull the next shit, and we get German movement or combat. I want to say, let's see, it's showers, so the German get, there's some limit to what we can pick. I need to make sure I get this right. Let's see. Except on the single storm turn, the German player must choose 2 move and 1 combat rounds each action phase. So this could be a movement or a combat. If I have it be combat, what does that do for us? I don't think that does as much. I think we definitely want to do movement this time. So we'll do German movement. We will roll a die for the reinforcements. And I rolled 2. The number of formations is more than that. Let's do a double check here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so it's 2 either way. I think we bring in the flak division. And we'll bring in some infantry. Okay, so I'll take care of this German movement, and I think their goal is just to be, again, to protect the lines and do what they can to hold onto the areas of importance. So we'll be right back after I'm done moving the Germans. Okay, here we are at the German movement, and you can see I've got some guys coming up from the south. Other units have sort of joined the front lines, have rearranged units. The valuable thing about cities is that enemy Zocs do not project into them, so we had a unit that could kind of swap out of here and come over to join. So the city itself, Con, is like iron tight, and we still have some mechanized units heading out west that kind of keep the British from easily being able to flank. We'll want to reinforce this over here a little bit better, obviously, because all it's going to take is to break through here, and the British can start to kind of come out, but we can react down south to the southwest, or, well, I guess if you're actually looking at the compass, that is just south. So, yeah, just trying to create a really stalwart defense around the city to try to keep the British off the Orne River and contained as much as possible. And, at least for now, that's the best that they're going to do. And over to the west, we did back up a little bit away from the Americans just so that we forced them to have to do some more movement before combat. And that's really all we can opt to do safely at this point. It's kind of hard to know right now as the Germans, am I doing the right thing? Am I moving to the right places? Am I, maintaining a good, decent line? But we've only really lost 1 true unit, not counting the strong points, so we'll call that good enough. We'll go back to the cup, and what do we get? We do get the other British combat, and I think with the German activity that we've just seen, it is now much harder for the British to do stuff with that combat shit. We could see an attack over here an attack over here. So this is currently 3-1. I think we could just give that a die roll. And that is a DR, which I'm trying to remember. I think now that we're in the regular moves, that just eliminates the unit. Okay, so yeah, this guy is eliminated now that we're in the actual turns, so that's easy. And then we'll go ahead and use, this will be a case where we use our naval bombardment here just to make it so that we are 15-3 is 5-1, so we're almost certainly going to do this. And yes, we do. So this guy is cleared. So we've got everything in our backfield really taken care of there. And if we wanted to, we could advance after combat. I don't think we're going to bother to do that actually, but there we go. And then the question is, are we going to try to do any other attacks? I think here might be worthwhile. We have 12, 18, 24 to 6. That's 4-1 odds. No other bonuses are going to go into this, but I think 4-1 is pretty good. We'll give it a roll. And we rolled a 4, which is an exchange. So I don't think the terrain helps these guys at all, but that's two steps. This is part of the 352nd Division, and so we have to lose 2 steps, and we'll weaken these 2 units here, and we will advance after combat. So we are seeing a little bit of a not quite a breakthrough, but certainly some advancing over here. We could do 16-6. That would only be 2-1 odds. It is still in clear. I think we could try it. I mean, it's kind of low odds, but I'm willing to try. We need to start making headway. We did get a DR result, so I do not believe there's anything that allows the Germans to modify that result. So they're going to go 1-2. I think we'll let this unit advance. We don't want to create a case where the Germans could be a little sneaky and try to bust through a weak line over here and sweep in and take the beaches. So we'll just advance like that. I mean, I guess we could actually advance like that and it wouldn't really make much of a difference because of the Zocs blocking, but just in case something goes sideways, we'll do that. They have high movement ratings, so it doesn't matter too much. And then the real question is, like, is the British willing, are the British and the Canadians willing to try anything over here? They could try, so it'd be 12-3. That's 4-1. I mean, I think that's worth a shot. We got a DE result. So this guy of the 711th Division is actually eliminated, and we could advance after combat, and I think we will do that with our gliders. So we're creating a bit of a problem. We are putting this guy out of supply, and now that the Germans are done moving, he will probably end up getting eliminated, I think, due to attrition. So good move there. And then it's tough. It's like, do you bother to attack here? Do you bother to attack here? A town provides 1 shift to the left. So even if we attacked with 18, 23, another 8, I don't think that's going to be enough. Another 10, actually. 33 10. That'd be 2-1. That's actually not so bad. Um, oh, it's tricky. Yeah, let's try it. 2-1. Shit. I rolled a 1. Okay, well then we have to take a step loss, and we'll do it on the Canadians. Oh, you know what? I am so sorry. I am not playing the game correctly. Um, I am not playing the correct game correctly at all, actually. I am really actually screwing it up. Um, hmm. I could not have attacked over here without. Oh man, I'm so sorry, guys. Geez. I think so far it really hasn't mattered until just now. But we can't make multi-hex attacks unless we are attacking everything else in that unit's Zoc or that stack's Zoc. So the fact that we tried to attack, we could not have attacked here without also attacking here, and I don't think I want to do that. So for sure, this attack just didn't even happen. Over here, our attempt where we did 12 to 3, we would need to still attack this stack with something. Um, and to be honest, I don't think any of these attacks actually are worthwhile. So um, I'm going to have to reverse time. I really apologize for that. I'm glad I caught myself, but it sucks because I was doing it right. So the real question is like, is there any point in trying to attack anywhere else right now? And I think the answer is no. I just do not see. I do not see where the Allies can make further ground right now. I think over here we were okay. The Zoc mandatory attack roll didn't matter as much because it was more open here. But kind of like historically, the British I think are going to have to British and Canadians are going to have to try to outflank the city now. It is too heavily defended. We didn't get the chits in the right order to capture it early and quickly, and I just don't think that we're going to be able to make much more headway there. So I think that's it for the British combat, to be honest. The mandatory attacks are just going to make everything else very hard to attack, and in particular, these guys are just super tough to even bother attacking. That it just makes it difficult. Just makes it difficult right now to try to burst through there. So we are going to get clogged up around that city. Going back to the cup. We'll see what we get. We get a American mover combat. Now we've already had one move. I do not think a combat helps us a whole lot right now. And I think the rules right now, I think the Americans are always allowed to kind of pick whatever they want. No more than 2 move or 2 combats per action phase. We've only had one move, so I think we are going to have this be an American move action. So as I move the camera over here, this should be a pretty straightforward set of moves. So let me take care of the American movement, and we'll be right back. Okay, here we are after the American move. Nothing too crazy. I mean, we're just kind of shuffling around a little bit, trying to get in a good position for the next attacks. And at this point, the only chits that can come out are attacks. So combat. So I think the Americans would like to draw theirs first. They can try to do some more cleanup and be in good shape. But we'll see what we get. Right. I'm trying to get situated where we can attack into Bayou, and maybe push these guys out. That would be really nice. The key thing is what I would really like to be able to do is attack. Well, and I guess really this is what. Well, I think this works better. I kind of have to figure out like, am I attacking here? Am I also attacking here? I think I'm going to have like these guys attack here and then these guys attack there. And we may get an opportunity to just eliminate these guys due to them being surrounded. We're able to operate one hex um, over the boundary line, basically. Make sure that I have that right. I'm reasonably confident that I do. Just make sure. I know that there's a rule in here for it, but I'm pretty reasonably confident that the more than one hex west of or east, yeah. So this is okay. These guys being over the boundary, but they can't go any further. But we're going to make it so it doesn't really matter. And what's important is that we're clearing the roads so that the Allies, whether we're talking about the British or the Americans, have plenty of options for supply tracing. And if we get to the point where we don't need to worry about the boundary line, we have easy ways to transfer units across the board. So, all right, we're going to go to the cup. There's only 2 chits left. And next chit pulled is actually the American mover combat. This has to be a combat chit. We can't pick 3 moves. So this worked out well for the Americans. They get a move and a combat. So what I want to do, I think what I'm going to do is have this unit attack here. It's 7-3. This unit is stuck in clear terrain. So it is just a 2-1. And I rolled a 4. 2-1. 4 is a retreat. And we have to retreat in the direction of a supply hex, I believe, and away from the Allied hex. But let me just make sure so that they can't like retreat in a goofy way. I think there's some limitations on that. Must retreat in the direction of the nearest supply source if at all possible. And so that means that this unit does have to retreat, 1, 2. I'd have this guy advance after combat. And now the situation is there are Zocs all around this guy. Then we would have an attack here. And I think I worked it out that this is 6, 10, 26. Here is where I would use I can't use the naval bombardment here. Crap. I did this calculation thinking that I could, but you can't use it on city terrain. So it would be 26 to 16. That's 1-1. But if we can force a retreat, then we're in business. So I am going to roll a 1-1 attack. This might be foolish, but I think it's worthwhile here. We only got a BL1. And let me double check the city. Maybe this was a dumb attack. This probably was a dumb attack. All right, so it's a BL1. Fair enough. So I think the Germans, let's see, we lose 4. We take a step loss. Take a step loss up here. And we're good there. And then other attacks, so we would have 6 to 1 here. It's 6 to 1 because the flak is not defending against motorized units. So 6 to 1. He is eliminated. So this guy is kaput. And we can advance after combat, which we will certainly do that. Maybe leave that guy. There's this line that the Axis could try to come through, but I'm not sure it's going to matter as much. I could attack here. I don't think I'm going to do that. It's just still a little bit dicey yet. And I don't want to do it.
I could attack here, but that's the bocage, which is going to be kind of problematic. Could attack here to here. That would be 3 to 1 reduced down to 2 to 1. So maybe that's good. This is a BL1, so that unit is eliminated, and we suffer a step loss. Advance after combat, and kind of better defensive positions here, though it's a little dicey. I will say that it is a little dicey for that unit, that American unit hanging out there. But we did eliminate another 352nd unit from the map. We could attack here, which would be 16 to 5, which would be 3 to 1, and it would go down to a 1 to 1. That's pretty gnarly. So I don't think we attack here, but we do maybe attack here. And so this might, I don't know. I don't know. Like, I don't think I'm going to try to attack there, actually. It's too difficult. Up here, see, the 2 shifts for bocage is like, that's just so gnarly. Let's start over here. We do an attack here, and it is 6 to 2. That's 3 to 1. A little bit of an easier time with it. So this guy's eliminated. We can advance after combat. Attacking here. So 5 to 1 becomes 4 to 1. That is an elimination here. He can advance after combat. And then attacks here, I just don't know. Do 18 to something, and then have it be a bloody attack. I don't know how I feel about that. What I don't have a sense for as I'm playing is like what is worth attacking in bocage, right? If you're in bocage, what is worth attacking with? So if it was 16 to, let's say, 6, that'd be 2 to 1. Then 2 shifts down would be 1 to 2, which would be pretty gnarly. If I attacked over here, it'd be maybe 2 to 1 shifted down to 1 to 3. Just like none of these seem like really good attack options across the board. They're just not great. If I attacked here, this would be 2 to 1, down to 1 to 1, down to 1 to 2. And I don't know if I like the idea of that either at the moment. Yeah, really, not many of these attacks like actually look very good, and I don't know when I'm gonna get better opportunities or not. And it's like, do you play a attritional game and just try to chip away at them as you can, or what? I don't have a good answer to that. Maybe we do try, go 10 to 5. That's 2 to 1. We lose 2 shifts to 1 to 2, and we roll it. I rolled a 6. So that would be a DR, but the bocage, I can ignore retreats, and yeah, so we ignored the retreat here. We know how strong this unit is, this Ospitani, but we ignore retreats. I don't think there's anything else to be done there either.
Yeesh. Okay, yeah, we didn't get anywhere on this attack. We didn't lose anything, but we didn't get anywhere. And everywhere else is just too difficult, I think, right now to try. I mean, we really could try. Well, okay. All right. I need to try something. So 10 to 5, that's 2 to 1. Goes down to 1 to 2 here, and then these guys are going to attack here. So 1 to 2. Roll the 5. That's no effect. But then these guys have 11 to 2. That's 5 to 1. Gets reduced down to 4 to 1 for the marsh. And defender eliminated. So this guy's eliminated. And we are able to advance after combat, and I'll advance like that. And so we are thinning the German line. I think that's the important thing. So we had to take this attack that could likely result in nothing happening so that we could attack here where we did have a chance at making headway. And maybe that's what the Americans just need to do. They just need to accept that they may not make any ground in the bocage, but if that means, due to the mandatory attack rule, they can attack elsewhere and make a gain, then that might be worthwhile. We'll see. Eventually, once we get to turn 7, the bocage won't be as useful, and so that may be our opportunity to make much greater headway. Of course, you got to remember, this is just turn 1, right? We're just in the first turn of the game. A lot more stuff's going to happen. Final chip gets pulled, and it has to be German combat. In terms of German combat over here, I don't think anything over here really makes sense to try. I don't think anything over here really makes sense to try. Really, like the actual German attacks don't seem super worthwhile when you realize what you could lose. These guys are currently out of supply, and so I don't even think they can do anything. If they're out of supply, let's see what the effect of being out of supply is, if they can even attack. I guess they have half strength. Combat strength is halved. So even if we try to make some sort of breakthrough attack, it would be 5 to 7. 5 to 7, which is 1 to 2, and then being across the minor river brings it to 1 to 3. If we got a retreat, that would actually be worth it. Otherwise, they're going to get attrited, and if they get attrited, they lose a step. So they're gonna lose a step no matter what. So we might as well try to make something happen. So we are gonna attack. Oh no, because they're gonna have naval defense over here. So I guess we don't attack, because then it would be 5 to, yeah, no, that would be 5 to 13. I guess it would still be 1 to 2. Okay, no, it's still worth it. We're gonna do it. I roll a 4, which is no effect. So we tried to get a breakthrough out to restore some supply lines, and we failed. So these guys are going to be in trouble. Over here, elsewhere, this would be maybe worthwhile, but again, the Allies are going to have their naval support, which would make that not a good idea. Any other attacks through here just aren't going to be powerful enough to make a huge difference. Anywhere we look, the Allies are just too strong with what they have. So I don't think the Germans do any other attacks. I mean, truly, there's just not enough firepower present, and they don't have adjacency to make it count for anything better. I mean, if we did try, we could try doing this 27 to 27 to 15 wouldn't be good, and they'd still have the naval. So, yeah, I don't think the Germans attack right now. I think they hold steady, and that's the end of the turn. So we are at the end of turn one. What is there left to do in the sequence of play in this case? Let me just double check that sequence of play to make sure I've got it figured out here. And of course, I'm having trouble getting there. Okay, attrition phase. So because this is a shower's turn, the German player will check for supply, but the allies will not. As we look at supply, let's see, this unit over here is able to trace supply. These guys are not because of the Zocs here and Zocs here. Are there any other units that are out of supply right now? I do not think so. I think this guy's out of supply. He can't trace this way, and he could try to trace this way, but I don't think the supply line will actually reach for him. It can't be traced through an open beach, so he couldn't trace this way. Okay, so I think this unit is actually in supply, if only because it can trace here, 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 here. It's an unlimited number of hexes, so because I didn't leave someone behind to block, this guy sticks around for some reason, though he can't do anything. So the only issue is now these guys. A unit that is out of supply loses a step. That means each unit. So this guy, this step is lost. So 17th SS is a fractured division. This guy loses a step. Everybody else is in supply, as far as I can tell. So that's it for that. And then we have the cleanup phase. Nothing's really relevant here. Any reinforcements that did not come in. Oh gosh, I forgot to bring on U.S. reinforcements. Oh gosh. Yes, I should have brought on some additional U.S. reinforcements. That might have mattered actually a lot. Let me see what I can do to resolve that. Okay, so I'm having a reverse time. I feel bad, guys. I'm like I'm not. Some of the nuances of the different rules are kind of conflicting with my ability to play, I guess, or I'm just tired. I don't know. So I had the U.S. 9th Division enter here, and in that movement, they decided to go here. Now, the net effect of this is that this guy is out of supply and would have attrited. So a 2 Ost battalion is eliminated. Because of the Zoc blocking here, this unit would be eliminated. So that guy is done. So now we actually have, if we look broadly at the whole map, a well-connected allied beachhead. And then finally, I was able to get these the second armor division into this hex. They moved. I'll adjust the camera so you guys can see it better. They moved here, and I think there might have been an attack worthwhile here. So this would have been 9 defending. This would have been 16, 26, 31. 31 again to 9. Being in a town is one shift, so would be 2-1 odds, but I think that's worth rolling for. So 2-1, and of course I roll a 1, which is an AL1, which that actually sucks. All right, well, net effect is that nothing much changes. Rolling a 1 sucks, and that doesn't get me anywhere that I want to be. But I guess I'm concentrating force over here to achieve some breakthrough, and that's really the key thing that we want to get. We want to isolate Cherbourg and disrupt the Germans. So, okay, those are the corrections that I needed to do, and those are complete. So I guess we are just in better shape now for the end of the turn. So yes, we are now well and truly at the end of the turn. The cleanup phase, reinforcements, any of the reinforcements that did not make it in, and there are some for every faction, are going to be in the bucket for the second turn reinforcements. But keep in mind, we have to bring in the first turn reinforcements before we bring in any second turn reinforcements. And finally, we have the victory phase, victory check phase, to see who's gained victory points. So this is actually something we do want to check. We do want to be careful of. We don't want to gloss over it like we might in other games. Do we have the capture of Arromanches-la-Bain on turn 1? It's this spot right here. Technically, we did. I didn't really show it on camera, but it was easy for any of these British units to swing over and take it. This guy could have easily swung around and still had movement. So we'd say that is taken. So that is one British, Allied victory point that we're going to put on the board for the rest of the game. For each con hex controlled at the end of turn 1, that is none. Nothing was captured on Cherbourg was not captured. Controllable city hex at the end of turn 10, that doesn't matter. Nobody's in the Brittany box. No one's gotten into an eastern exit box. So right now, the only thing we know is that the Allies picked up one victory point for control of Arromanches-la-Bain on turn 1. So there you go. The German victory points. Nothing for automatic victory. We have not eliminated any U.S. units. No victory points for things related to turn 5 or 6. Victory points for divisions in the Brittany box don't matter, and we haven't exited anyone off the eastern exit boxes yet. So as it stands, nobody's gotten victory points except for the Allies, and they got the one that I mentioned. And that's it for turn 1, guys. So I'm sure this video is super long. I apologize for that. If you watched the whole video, thank you very, very much. I really appreciate you being able to do that. I will get this video up, and then we'll be taking a look at turn 2. With turn 2, a lot of things start to shift. We start to get some additional support markers. The prepared offensive and combined action chits are usable, and we'll talk about more of this in the next video, but basically provides the Allies with a little bit more operational flexibility to do some things that they would or otherwise not be able to do. And we'll just continue to see what happens. I think we'll see the fall of Bayeux soon enough. We'll continue to be pushing into the Cotentin Peninsula to isolate Cherbourg and push the Germans back. The British desperately trying to find a way to continue to outflank the Germans so that they can make some headway. In fact, they may even be the first chit that the Allies choose to do, is some movement so that these guys can attempt to penetrate the German lines and outflank Caen. That would be their ideal. But the road junctions will become an important part of that whole movement drama. So, all right, guys, we'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Take care. Keep on gaming.